घर से पेशावर सदर तक का रास्ता 5 मिनट का है, जो कि अब आधे घंटे का हो गया है। इसकी वजह बड़ी ये है कि ट्रैफिक ज़्यादा हो गई है और लोग गलत जगह पे पार्किंग करते हैं, बिना लाइसेंस के ड्राइव करते हैं। अभी भी आप देख सकते हैं कि मेरे पीछे कितना रश बना हुआ है।
Frequent traffic jam is one of the biggest issues faced by the resident of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. To solve this problem, we partnered with the KP Traffic Police Department and built a mobile application solution.
राब्ता ऐप से लोगों को बहुत सहूलत मिली है। इसमें हमने लाइसेंस प्रोसीजर और ड्राइविंग टेस्ट का मॉड्यूल रखा हुआ है, उससे वो लर्न भी कर सकते हैं, उससे प्रैक्टिस भी कर सकते हैं।
This app not only allows the public to file a complaint against the traffic violations, but also enables them to track the status of their traffic tickets and educates them about the traffic rules.
रूट अपडेट्स भी दिए गए हैं और से आप किसी भी वक्त किसी भी रूट की स्टेटस आप देख सकते हैं कि वहाँ पे रश है, जाम है, कोई मसला तो नहीं।
So far, the app has brought the transparency to the ticketing system, and now the department is providing most of their services through this app digitally.
Hi everyone, thank you for joining us on this very special episode of Startup Talks. It's special because today we are here to talk about an organization that is an epitome of Pak-US relations and promoting the use of technology for social good, empowering citizens to create solutions and improve civic services impacting millions while going hand in hand with Government 2.0. We are here to talk about Code for Pakistan. Code for Pakistan is the official partner and member of International Code for All network. It is a civic innovation platform made up of a passionate community driven by a strong belief in civic innovation and social impact that can move Pakistan forward in measurable and meaningful ways. Code for Pakistan has successfully implemented various programs on innovation fellowship, civic internships for women, and several hackathons in major cities of Pakistan. It is such programs that have led to startups like Savari. To learn about all the great work the organization has done, we are joined by none other than its country head, Samina Rizwan, who left an illustrious corporate career and is on a mission to use technology to build a better citizen-centered ecosystem. Having over 30 years of experience in G2G, G2B, and G2C processes, program strategy, and technology architecture, a better part of her career was spent at Oracle, which she joined in 2001 as Managing Director, South Asia Growth Economies, when she established Oracle's footprint in Pakistan. Her last assignment, she was the Vice President of ASEAN region. Samina has worked with established names in the telecom and banking industry globally. She was also a member of Oracle's Global Women's Leadership Committee. She also serves on the board of FMTI PIMS and was the first woman from Pakistan to be certified TMP. Hi Samina, how are you doing? Welcome to the show.
Assalamu alaikum, Taimur. I'm very well, and thank you very much for this opportunity to introduce Code for Pakistan.
That's great. I hope I've done justice to the intro.
More than enough. Thank you very much.
So, Samina, what is Code for Pakistan all about then?
So, Taimur, thoda sa, if you don't mind, मैं उर्दू में भी बात कर लूँगी.
Sure.
I'm sure our audience is Urdu speaking as well.
Sure.
Code for Pakistan is part of the Code for All initiative across the world. Basically, in very simple terms, the objective is that government should work seamlessly for everybody, everywhere. And to do that, not only should government be focused on good governance, citizens have to change their mindset and be participatory. So basically what we advocate is that our mission together is to make life easy for the common man, for the citizen. And to do that, not only should government play its part, but citizens have a voice, citizens have hands, they have minds to, and they have technology. And they can now use technology to participate in government and not wait just for government agencies to do right or to do to create solutions. I will, through the rest of the 30 odd minutes that we have, Taimur, demonstrate to you where Code for Pakistan has not only advocated, but we have executed and achieved the objective that we are looking for, which is that citizens must participate, and government is not just about a governing body, but citizens and all stakeholders participating in it.
Yeah, that's great. Use of technology is for social impact is something that I myself hold close to heart, right? And I'm actually looking forward to this conversation today. I haven't had anything like this on Startup Talks just as yet. So, Samina, what is civic hacking, and why does Code for Pakistan champion it so passionately?
Very interesting. And let me say, Taimur, that I come from a commercial corporate background. And for me, revenue generation and customer satisfaction, doing a business deal with the other party was what I was used to in my world. Hacking to me, honestly, for the longest time was a very negative word. Hackers are unethical people. They try to sneak into systems. They try to break into systems. But civic hacking is the good kind of hacking. And I want to say here that some of the people who speak very eloquently on it, one of them is our executive director and founder of Code for Pakistan, Shiba Najmi. I will, after this talk, send you some links on to Shiba's talks on civic hacking. Civic hacking is the good kind of hacking. And let me say that while we focus on technology-based hacking, which is like there is a problem has been stated, and you use technology to create a small application to resolve it. For example, you can say that streets agar saaf nahi hai, तो street साफ करना किसका काम है? Of course, हम लोग पाकिस्तान में ये सोचते हैं कि government वाले आएंगे, municipality वाले आएंगे, वो करेंगे. On the other hand, you could build a little app that says, this portion of the street belongs to you. You can call it, give it a name, call it Samina, call it Taimur, and clean that portion of the street. And there's an app that lets you own that bit, that says this is Samina's portion of the street. And then if Taimur comes and cleans it next time, he can probably steal it from me. He can say, this is Taimur's street now. It's a little game you can play whereby you are achieving the objective of clean streets. हम पाकिस्तान में इस तरह सोचते नहीं हैं. इसको कहते हैं civic hack. This is a little hack that generates a certain attitude and a certain behavior. It advocates and it promotes a certain behavior. So you can say civic hacking is about bringing about those solutions which otherwise a government, if it was to indulge in it, would take a long time doing it and it will cost a lot of money. तो मकसद ये है कि आप सिर्फ गवर्नमेंट को रिस्पॉन्सिबल ना ठहराएं, आप खुद भी बहुत कुछ कर सकते हैं. एंड स्पेशली नाउ दैट देयर इज टेक्नोलॉजी, putting technology in the center of problem and solution is really very easy now. We have a voice, we have hands, as they say, we have the minds and the capability and skill to build something like that. It is not necessary कि एक hack जो आप करें तैमूर उसमें technology ही हो. All of us are hackers in some way. पाकिस्तान में एक word है जुगाड़ हमारी जुबान में, जो कि हर कोई इस्तेमाल करता है कि मैंने जुगाड़ लगा ली. उस जुगाड़ में कोई बुराई नहीं है. It is a very simple, logical solution to a problem. अब अगर आप उसको नेगेटिवली इस्तेमाल करेंगे तो वो एक नेगेटिव जुगाड़ हो जाएगा. जैसे आपने इलेक्ट्रिसिटी का कुंडा लगा लिया. हमारी एक ऐप है जिसको हम कहते हैं नो कुंडा. तो नो कुंडा इज दैट इफ यू सी अ कुंडा समवेयर, you take a picture of it and you upload it into a database and it reaches the people who are going to take some action on it. This was done completely by citizens, and this one may not be used much right now like some others that I'll tell you about, but it's a little hack that you're using, publicly available data, or you're creating that data on your own. So civic hacking is the good kind of hacking, and what we promote and advocate is that civic hacking is the power of the people to participate in government. तो शीबा का मैंने नाम लिया, अगर आप कोड फॉर अमेरिका की बहुत capable and काबिल कुछ leaders हैं like Jennifer Palka, I think a few others whose TED Talks are brilliant. I think I would like to send you links to that. People should be able to see those as well.
Please do. It's good. It sounds something really great because it's the change of mindset that is actually needed, right? That
Yes,
actually solves all, well, not all of them, most of the major problems, and that's what Code for Pakistan is doing actually through civic hacking, which is wonderful to know. Now, CFP is a member of the global network for code organizations. What are some of the characteristics that define these organizations?
So you can call it, in Pakistan, maybe the flavor and nature of it may be a little different, Taimur, slightly. You can call it a sort of a movement.
Yeah.
And you have to study history to understand how something like civic hacking or technology-based civic hacking has come into being. Number one, we want to make government work seamlessly for everybody, everywhere. This is common amongst all of us. Number two, we want to harness the power of technology, the power of people as a skilled group, and we want to bring government and citizens together to create participatory democracy. The reason we call it democracy is not the traditional thought about politicians getting elected to office. We are a non-partisan organization. We don't indulge in politics. But when we say democracy, it means that citizens have a voice as well. And citizens can now make their voice louder by the use of technology. You are aware, of course, Taimur, that movements have been started on the internet. When you talk about government 2.0,
Yeah.
or you talk about Web 2.0, it is about the next generation of using these technologies.
Yeah.
So this is common amongst all Code for All affiliates across the world. Natures of what we do everywhere may be different. There are some code companies which are taking comments and opinions from citizens and passing them to government at a very massive level, at a very legislative level. In our case, for example, the work that we have done, there is one video that I will send to you, which you may please play sometime during this talk, which is about a Rabta app that we did for Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, which was about traffic violations and reporting of it through crowdsourcing, for example. Then we did a little exercise with KP government. And the reason I keep mentioning KP is because most of our work over the past several years has been with the KP government. And we have found the KP government to be very progressive and accepting and participating in the initiatives that we've taken. There was an exercise, and let me just say here that technology-based hacking or technology-based solution development does not necessarily mean 100% technology. There is a lot of non-tech work involved, Taimur, like there's research, there's validation of a problem statement. There is going back to citizens to get feedback. So all of that doesn't require technology. It can have technology to make things happen, but the person who's conducting the research need not be a technologist to do it. So the process of getting to the end of a problem statement and creating a solution has technologists plus others. So one such thing was an exercise called Rahnuma, where it's a thing called a write-a-thon. And this is also something I've learned from Shiba when our executive director and founder and I have spoken. This is about getting citizens together to write their questions or write their opinions. So you could say that traffic is really bad, or Islamabad has too many tall buildings now, it's spoiling the ambience or the look of the city. You could say the Margala Hills, there should be no more construction in it. We should do this. In Ranuma, there were 30 citizens who got together, and about 170 very valid questions were filtered from the input that they gave. Now, those problems can be given to the government, and the government can be told, these are the things that the citizens think. It's a very solid survey, good sample size. We would like to help you develop some applications and solutions on it. This is the kind of participatory government that all Code for All affiliates promote. Like I said, the nature of things in every country could be different. In our country, while we rely a lot on internet penetration, which is incidentally affordable and growing. As you know, I've worked in many countries across the world, and I think Pakistan is right up there in terms of the services that we have, internet and telecommunication wise. Good about, I imagine, I don't know for this for sure, but 80% of Pakistan's population is using a phone. They're running their businesses on the phone, and a large percentage of that has smartphones. And in tier 2, tier 3 cities, there are a lot of technology knowledgeable young people who may not get an opportunity to get major, very well paying jobs, but they do know technology and they can be utilized in the right way. I want to make one more point here that to that end, we have our flagship program is called the Fellowship Program. And this has been running in KPK for about 7 years, very successfully, a cycle of 6 months for a very select group of technologists who come into the Fellowship Program. And not only do they learn from us, they learn coding, they learn other skills, soft skills, etc. They develop these apps. So every app that I talk to you about, or every solution or hack that we are talking about, these have all been developed by our fellows. And this has now been extended. The fellowship program is now being extended to another government partner of ours called NIH, which is now actually, the name has changed. It's called the Center for Disease Control in Islamabad. We're doing it there, and a lot of the IT boards across the country are very interested in replicating this. So the point is, we are also building capacity. These people who graduate from a cycle of the fellowship program run by us can either be hired by the government, they get hired by us. A lot of our team members are ex-fellows, and they can get hired in the community at large by corporate customers. So you're building the capacity. Again, I'll refer to Shiba. Shiba, who's a Pakistani living in the US. She was a Code for America fellow. And that's where her inspiration came from, that, this is a very prestigious thing to do and we should try to replicate it in Pakistan. So this is what we're doing right now. That's a little bit about the Code for All, or the civic tech movement across the world.
It's good to know that it's all about empowering people, and it's some great work that you mentioned that CFP has been doing in KPK. I wish I could give input somehow, maybe in my personal capacity, help CFP expand into other regions like Sindh and Balochistan. These are also places where things like these are very much needed. And
let me just stop you there. Let me just cut in there. Sorry, that's a very good point that you've made. A lot of our work, like I said, that our fellows develop the applications. Of course, we have a team which is very skilled with mentors and coaches them, but we are never going to be a very large team of people. We rely a lot on the volunteer group, or the volunteer critical mass that we have. A lot of our well-wishers, a lot of our participants are volunteers. They're from the diaspora of Pakistan and across the world. There are people sitting outside of Pakistan who are Pakistanis originally, but nationals of different countries who are working with us. So absolutely, you can contribute. There's always something or the other that we need some help with. And I dare say our volunteers, we have regular, very VPs and other volunteers who are working very regularly with us. Others are there listed with us, whom we go to whenever we need some help. So it would be wonderful, not just yourself, but people who are listening should reach out to us on info@codeforpakistan.org and register themselves as our volunteers.
That's great. You can count me in.
Thank
Right.
you. Thank you.
And now, Samina, you mentioned some applications like Rabta and Rahnama and fellowship programs. So, up until now, in the short history of CFP, what programs has it run altogether? Any other prominent features?
Yes, so very good question. I think we have a very rich and extensive portfolio of services such as the fellowship program and applications, or what we call projects, because an application comes out of it as a deliverable, Temur, but the project involves research, surveys, problem validation, citizen feedback, and writing of case studies and impact studies in the end of that as well.
Mhm.
I would very much like to show you my website here, but I request maybe later on, once you're editing this, you could put some things on from the website.
Yeah.
If you go to our civic apps, you will see there are about 40 odd civic apps listed there. Rapta is one of the very successful ones, which has been now maintained by the government of KP for a number of years. The digitization of pharmaceutical licenses is another one that they're using very very effectively. We have a couple of, I want to go to women, for example, Temur. One of the aspects of our commitment is that we are very committed to women empowerment and women participation. So in the fellowship program, in KPE, we have established a new program called the Women Internship Program. And now that involves training women. There's a group of 9 women who are being trained through an internship cycle. And we are now adding another element to it called one-on-one mentorship. So people like myself, for example, or Shiba, or somebody like Jehanara, who's like an icon of the IT industry in Pakistan. I'm hoping that I have asked her, she hasn't replied yet, but I'm sure she will once she gets back from Dubai, to be a mentor. So we look for other women who will mentor women. So there's an app, for example, in the list that you will see in civic apps called Moavin. So Moavin was created for women to push back on cyberbullying, for example. Similarly, you will find any number of such things. We've done an app on Zakat. We've done an app on Mohafiz to create, it's called Mohafiz, to create security for the average citizen. I'm afraid I don't even remember all of them, but there's many of them now. Some have been very successful. You will find them in Google Play Store as well. You can download them. The great thing is, Temur, that we are open source. This is all free of charge. The only cost you would incur is perhaps, whatever little logistical costs there are of deploying it and maintaining it. But it's all open source. We promote and are completely committed to open government, open data, the open, the open movement. We believe that government data should be open. And actually, government data, a lot of it is open. It's out there for us to pick up. All you have to do is, on top of that, build a layer to facilitate yourselves and your fellow citizens. I think if you go to our website and you see the civic apps that we've done, you will also see there some impact studies and some excellent case studies written by us. So it's also an exercise in academia where we actually write the papers and we write the case studies, which as many of them have been published also. So I think it'll be a rich experience for everybody to visit our website, Temur.
I will do so myself. Now, Samina, all this work that the wonderful work that CFP is doing, of course, this revolves around communities, and the government has a lot of role to play in all of this, right? At some stage or another. So, what kind of communities and government departments would be the preferred partners for CFP?
Well, I don't think we differentiate in government, but we do like to stick to things that we don't want to go into complex projects, Temur. Not that we can't do them. Certainly, we can gather up the expertise to undertake any of them. But for example, back office ERP implementations, which has been my forte in my earlier life in in the commercial world, that is not something that we're greatly interested in, because those are heavy projects. It's heavy lifting. It costs a lot of money. Usually there is licensing involved. And if it doesn't, number one, doesn't play into our open data, open government, open source commitment, we won't take that up. We don't work for commercial organizations that are for profit. Certainly they are partners of ours and we value them. We work very closely with the telecom sector in Pakistan, but we don't devise and design solutions for them. So first of all, it's government. Second, it's value to the citizen. Third is it must be fully open. Fourth is something that we can handle. I won't say all of them are just simple hacks. Some of them are regular, long, fairly heavy projects, but something that immediately, very quickly can benefit the citizen. So, I have been involved in my past life in projects that were 100 million, 200, 350 million. I think the largest project I worked for with an army of team members was $500 million. And that was still small by Oracle standards globally. That is something that would take the government several years to implement. And that kind of defeats the purpose of immediate value to the citizen. So our focus would be government, and where we can bring in citizens to create the participatory value. You mentioned Sindh and Balochistan. I'm sure people are wondering why KP and why not the others. There is no specific reason except that the response from KP has been very positive and very progressive over the years. We are now reaching in. We've done a lot of work, by the way, with the federal government. We have, like I said, the Center for Disease Control right now that we're engaged in. We've been engaged with NCOC through the Digital Pakistan initiative. We've done some work with the Prime Minister's portal. I am very hopeful that, for example, some of the best programs running in Pakistan now, such as the ESAS program, the latest one that they have introduced, the subsidy for about, I think, 12 million individuals or families. I believe that we can contribute to that. I would like to reach out to the government for that. And finally, I am now hopefully, because I am only like 2 months old at Code for Pakistan, I'm going to reach out to Sindh government very soon and Balochistan government. We've already reached out to Azad Kashmir government. And everybody has shown a lot of interest. It's just that I think I need to also guide them on what we can do for them, because it's not easy for some people to understand exactly what we do. And especially when we tell them, no, you don't have to pay us. You can pay us our logistic expenditures, but we're not charging you for the software and the IP. It's kind of difficult for people to wrap their head around that, because they're so used to having to pay heavy amounts for such services and products and solutions. So that is something that we are hoping to do with the government agencies very soon.
Okay, that's great. And you mentioned ESAS program. I think Sania Nishtar is a very cooperative woman. I think she'll encourage some sort of cooperation with CFP. I'm sure of that. Now,
Sania is one of the most effective leaders in the government. I find I have to say I'm very partial to the work that she's doing, not because it's just amazing, excellent work, of course, under the directorship or vision of the Prime Minister, but to execute it is not an easy job. And the fact that she's a woman, she's an icon and ideal for many women, most of the women in Pakistan. So, very special work that she's doing.
And to keep it clean for something like
Yes.
this in Pakistan is astonishing. right?
So I think great work being done by them. I think also salute to the NCOC team,
Yes,
the Federal Minister Sadomar and Dr. Faisal Sultan,
yeah,
who's the special advisor. Amazing work that they've done. I mean, I think that the response to COVID-19 in Pakistan has been remarkable, probably better than most other countries in the world. And incidentally, under the guidance of Digital Pakistan, when COVID first hit, Code for Pakistan did a lot of work. A lot of little apps were developed by us to tackle COVID, and especially in KP also. Some of them are also on our website, and people should go and look at them.
that's great. Now, Samina, all of this wonderful work that you guys are doing at CFP, of course, it takes lots of resources, right? And you being a non-profit organizations, where are you getting your funding from?
Good point. So in Pakistan, we have a very good relationship with donor agencies or fellow organizations that have focus and interest in improving the lot of the citizen in Pakistan, such as World Bank. We have a relationship with what we call community services organizations in the country, those that are doing surveys, collecting data, providing social services, for example. We have a relationship with them. And then we get grants, Taimur. We get funding and grants from interested parties that are, let's say, interested in healthcare, education, environment, mobility apps. There, you see, we have to understand that just like in the traditional way, Taimur, ये होता था ना कि हमने किसी को खाना खिला दिया. ये मेरी सोच है, मेरी विजन है. Maybe not everybody will agree, but खाना खिलाया या shelter, food, किसी को पैसे दे दिया आपने ज़कात में से. मेरा ये ख्याल है कि technology based enterprises which are not for profit should really be considered for such donations. If I were to, so I have a certain limited budget from the partners that I mentioned who are providing us grants and funding. I must work within that budget, because if I go over that budget, I will then have to charge money from what I call my partners, which are the government agencies, which is not, I don't have a mechanism for that. I'm not designed that way, to take that money. But where I can do more work, I could really scale this and I could make a bigger impact is if I get the kind of funding which I need to scale. And I think that I hope to start reaching out to corporate bodies to say, in your corporate social, the CSR work the corporate social responsibility work that you do, do you consider funding and sponsoring and championing best for citizen participatory activities using technology? And if this is so, why don't you consider Code for Pakistan for similar sponsorship and funding? This is, I think, a novel experience for some, certainly not more progressive or technology knowledgeable companies like the telco sector. But, for the average business in Pakistan, they wouldn't particularly think of investing in technology. It's the same story as the startups. We're not a startup as such, but a lot of the mood and the positioning and the what you can call the strategies are very startup like, aren't they? People are now starting to invest in startups. You and I are both aware that over the past year, Pakistani startups have brought in more money than the collective number they brought in for the past 6 years. So it's an amazing jump, right? It's exponentially growing. Similarly, I think there has to be a change in mindset of investors to see that if you want to do good at a very grassroots level, maybe you need to invest in technology companies that have the same agenda.
Absolutely, and I believe telcos over here would be an excellent organization to partner with, especially Jazz and Telenor.
Yes.
And Angro, they are doing fantastic work with regards to their CSR initiatives.
Yes, and I would strongly, through this opportunity that you've given me, Taimur, reach out to all of these, the telcos like Jazz, we work very closely with on many things. I think we are in a position to develop a relationship with Telenor. Telcos understand us, they get us. They are indeed the pioneers of technology in the country. I have seen in my professional life in Pakistan that the word telecommunications softly but surely converted into telecommunications and information systems, prior to that it was only telecommunication and nothing else. So they get it, but like you said, other large corporates, I think we need to reach out to them as much as they need to check with us to see whether we can participate in their CSR objectives, in their CSR initiatives. Of course, we would insist upon working on government and citizen, and we would insist upon open source. We would not deviate from that. But there is plenty of room within that for all of us to work together as well.
That's great. Now, Samina, you've been shifting away from a bit from the operations that CFP is doing in Pakistan. You personally have a background in international corporate and a very commercial environments. And what sort of similarities and differences do you see from your own background and what you're doing right now in terms of product delivery and services?
I see some similarities. I see some stark differences as well. For me personally, this doesn't apply to just anybody who moves from a commercial technology utilization environment to a not-for-profit kind of thing, but it applies to me. I was used to a very large scale of work, Taimur. So when I was even when I started up Oracle in Pakistan, there were large projects. There was, FBR, the database environment for FBR, or the back office solutions for Nadra, or the work that we did with BISP to begin with, the Benazir Income Support Program, which started and which is now kind of merged into ESAS. So I was used to the large scale, and when I moved to Dubai and to Singapore and I started to work at a global level, I worked with the UAE government. I worked with the Smart Dubai people, for example, on a few things. In Singapore, we had projects like Skills Future with the government of Singapore. Singapore government's GovTech initiative, which is also sort of in a way the North Star for the best practices in technology in government, is something that I'm very familiar with. So these were large projects. My customers, even in Pakistan, MCB or Habib Bank or Bank Al Falah, or in UAE or in the Middle East, like Zain Group or Itisalat Group, Uridu Group, they were very large. And then I have come to this where we're actually very happy and very proud of the little bit of work that we do, like we do a little hack, we write a little application, we write a little routine, we do something on a mobile app. This is great work. So this is different for me. The other difference is, honestly speaking, and my whole team laughs at me at this, is the fact that we don't charge anything. It's for free. In the commercial world, I mean, if I were to go in with the mentorship or the consultancy that I am called in for, there was a price on my head, like I had a rate. There was a rate to Samina services or XYZ services. And we would charge that even before we sold anything. If we went in for a consulting activity, we would charge for that. For the implementation, we would charge. For the maintenance, we would charge. That's all very good. I'm a great advocate for that. But and I think that unless you do that, unless organizations understand that technology needs to be invested in, just like you invest in infrastructure or people or policies, unless they understand that, they cannot become sustainable ventures. I strongly support that, but I am discovering in a very refreshing way, and I'm very inspired by that there are things you can do at a very selfless level. It's this the feeling, it's hard to explain, Taimur, the feeling of serving the government and saying पैसा नहीं लेना हमने, आप इसको इस्तेमाल कर लें, बस इस्तेमाल कीजिए, you know. The feeling of that is almost the same as saying आपने 4 लोगों को खाना खिला दिया, या आपने किसी के सर्दी में कपड़े दे दिए किसी को, या आपने किसी की पढ़ाई के अंदर पैसे दे दिए. The sentiment of it is the same. I find this very different. This, in my earlier world, was what we called CSR. There was a separate team that did the CSR. There was very tight budgeting for it. And, you know, look, in a way, not to pull down those companies in the corporate sector, but in a way you did CSR where your branding was supported by it, you know, or your branding was promoted by it. And this is something we don't do. We just do because we want to do good, you know. So I think I find this very different. Other things like the technology, I've always worked with licensed software. I have not done much work with open source. But those are minor things, you know, those I think all technologists deal with on a daily basis.
Okay. Now, Samina, all of this work that CFP is doing, right, it's all around technology. It's heavily reliant on technology, right? And if you compare them to startups, right? Startups are commercial organizations. They are also reliant heavily on technology, right?
Yes.
And they're also in it to improve lives and make the environment better and facilitate people. And the work that CFP is doing, it's of course available to everyone to free. That is one difference. But in your opinion, what similarities and differences would there be in CFP's work and commercial startups?
I see some similarities, and by no means am I a startup expert. I've never had the courage, Taimur, to be an entrepreneur. I admit that publicly. But because I come from a background where I was at a very senior level, but I was an employee, right? I think the courage of starting a startup is similar to the courage of starting a Code for Pakistan kind of thing. I think our founder and executive director, Shiba, models herself on similar, very courageous people who were in very secure and very lucrative jobs. She was as well. She worked for LinkedIn for many years, but she took a step back and she focused and committed herself to this work, which was very different from what I imagined she was doing at LinkedIn. So the courage and the selflessness, that spirit is the same between startups and us. The other thing that's similar is shortage of funds constantly for them and for us. So the raising of funds for us, not for the profit, more for the sustenance, and for startups to become sustainable, to become, you know, to grow their idea into a properly designed and deployable solution. That is similar. I think the skill of pitching, the skill of gaining a person's interest, those 5 precious minutes of either winning it or losing it when you're talking to an investor or talking to, for us, not just the investor, the government. Equally is difficult for us to go out to a government body or an agency and say, I can really help you, believe it or not. My intentions are noble. I don't intend to jip you out of your money. I really want to participate in what you're doing. And I have a right to participate because government is not just about government. It's about government and citizen. This is more or less similar with startups because they may not be talking to the government, but when they're talking to their investors or they're talking to potential customers for whom the solution is being built, that pitch has to be very sharp. You know, they'll give you 5 minutes and in 5 minutes, you've got to either win them or lose them.
Yeah.
So I think the spirit and the strategy that you apply is very, very similar. Subsequently, down the line, things change. So I'll give you one example. We have an activity, a community activity called a hackathon. Everybody's aware of what a hackathon is, but people are now tending to look at hackathons as, oh, everybody will have a hackathon. Somebody in the corporate sector will fund it and sponsor it, and it'll be a nice exercise for 200 young people to get together and write little routines.
Yeah.
Actually, not just that. It's like identifying a problem statement, validating the problem statement, getting people to create solutions for that problem statement. If you study this, if you find content on Google, you will find that very large projects worth billions of dollars have been stopped by governments across the world because citizens got together and did a hackathon-like activity and said, in the next 2 weeks, please develop a solution better than what is being offered to the government for $10 billion.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, solutions, not one, but 10, 12, 15 came up. And the government was forced to abandon a very high cost project and adopt one of the solutions that the citizens were giving to them for free, So this sort of thing, we did one of the earlier hackathons that Code for Pakistan did. There was a team of young people which had a solution called Savari, and Savari was focused on women, and it was, I think, a carpool. This is also on our website, a carpool solution. Savari became a very popular solution, I think, all over Pakistan, but mostly in Lahore, I think they had started with. And then Savari, so the spirit of starting Savari, of course, was to help women who have trouble being transported around, as we all know, in Pakistan. Eventually became so big that it got acquired by Careem.
Yeah.
So now that journey, being acquired by Careem and, then becoming part of that management team and all, that I suppose would not be similar to Code for Pakistan. So we are not looking to become part of any commercial venture. We will stay where we are. We are part of a movement. We have a very solid mission that we're very clear on, and we will not compromise on that. But in the earlier stages of starting your operations, I think we have a lot of similarities with startups.
Okay, that's great. Now, Samina, we are over time, but that's fine. I'm actually enjoying this conversation. Mm, of course, you mentioned funding, right? Funding, everybody needs it. Money is good, but in case of social impact startups, right? I would actually call CFP as another initiative, because startups
Yes.
are all about initiating something, right? But yours is coming with a social impact, right? So through this platform at Startup Talks, would you like to make an appeal for funding?
Um, I suppose I would very much like that, Temur. I would like to make two appeals, if I may.
Sure.
The first, easier appeal for me to make, because that's just so in line with participatory activity with government, being responsible for government as much as government is responsible for governing, right? Is that we do need qualified, available, committed, passionate, skilled people who can offer themselves up for volunteering. This could be mentoring teams, this could be participating in talks, this could be promoting the message of Code for Pakistan, and I'm talking not just locally but internationally as well. So first appeal is for that. Please reach out to us at info@codeforpakistan.org and participate with us. We have not a big team, but a group of team members who look after community network development, and all of the outreach and all of the volunteer-based development is part of their responsibility. Like I said, we rely a lot on volunteers for our work. That's one. The second is funding. Yes, I must say that I would like to appeal for funding, but to the extent that none of that expects us or demands from us a deviation from our mission. So, Temur, it's not like funding is not available, but oftentimes funding comes with a caveat of you will do things this way. And if that way is in line and aligned with our mission and our aspirations and what we're after, of course, we will align with it. But if it is something like, you will help us promote our brand, which is a commercial brand, we would rather opt out of that. So funding from the perspective of bringing value, making the life easy for the common man, the grassroots, the Pakistani citizen, and not making it political, not making it partisan, not bringing any caveats into it that deviates from our mission, that funding we would very much welcome. And we would not use that funding to make a profit. We are registered in Pakistan as a not-for-profit organization. We have no mechanism to make a profit. But yes, we do have expenses. Yeah. And for us to scale, and for the community, if they would like to see us scale, we would need the funding just for our operational needs. So yes, thank you for the opportunity. These are the two appeals that I would like to make.
That's great. You mentioned hackathons earlier. It's very unfortunate that hackathons are meant to solve problems, right? It's unfortunate that in commercial environments, those hackathons are used as a marketing gimmick of late. Now, Samina, the best question, I'm saving it for last, right? Finally, your own profile and network is international. What brought you to Pakistan, and why did you select CFP to associate with instead of your comfort zone of the corporate sector?
That's a loaded question, Temur. I'll try to answer it quickly. Number one, I've lived abroad for many years and have lived more or less alone. My children are grown up, Temur, and they're thankfully doing very well, have chosen various countries as their home. So I'm quite used to being alone, not lonely, but alone. They're two different things. I have a very large group of friends across the world who've been very steady and with me for many years, and I have a very rich life that way. Nothing is missing, alhamdulillah. But I felt it was time for me to come home. I'm at that age where I really don't need to push myself much more in terms of, I must earn this, I must build this, I must invest this. Whatever was to be done, I feel I've done, and I'm very comfortable with that. When COVID hit and I was in Singapore, just myself and the maid, and I had a lot of work. It was a 24/7 kind of very senior, very challenging position. But I have to say that I consider myself a bit of a victim of COVID, because when COVID hit and everybody started to work from home, was the first time in many years I realized that I was not at home. I needed to be home. Now, home could be with my children in Canada or USA, wherever they're living, or it could be home in Pakistan. And everybody said to me, you will go to Pakistan and you'll not like it. You're not used to it. You're going to miss work. What are you going to do there? Nobody can give you the kind of a senior position that you have right now. All of that was true. But I came to Pakistan knowing all of that. And I came actually to retire. I didn't come to do any work. And I was quite happy setting up my home, doing the, Pakistani Desi Begum kind of thing, which I was enjoying it. But then I saw that Code for Pakistan was looking for a country head. And I really had very little idea of what Code for Pakistan. I looked them up. I knew the Code for All affiliates. I knew the Code for America movement, the civic tech movement. I knew a little bit about it, but I was never terribly knowledgeable about it. And then I started talking with Shiba, and I found that there was stuff that I'd like to do. And frankly, that was the time. And Shiba can be very convincing because she speaks from an inspiration that she has for the mission. It's very obvious when she'll talk to you about these things. And I would like very much that you should maybe have a chat with Shiba as well at some time. And I thought that this was something that I could contribute to. They needed somebody to fix up the operations. They needed somebody to plan for scale and growth. And that's what I've done all of my life. why did I not take up a corporate commercial position? Frankly, there aren't that many available in Pakistan, Temur. I mean, the ones that are there are taken mostly.
Okay.
And I have, in my old age, become very picky. I don't want to do something that I don't want to do. The good thing is that I'm very much associated with many of those organizations still. So I'm on the board of some. I am consulting for, doing it, pro bono, of course, but doing consulting for some. I'm always there to help, and I do get called upon for a lot of discussions and consultings and mentorship and all. So it keeps me very busy. I have to say, for somebody at my age, where I feel most women in Pakistan tend to retire, Temur, I don't feel retired at all, and that's a great blessing from God for me. It could have been anything, it could have been very different, but it's not. So while I miss my international colleagues and I'm very much in touch with them, I don't miss the work that I've done. I think I've done my bit. It's always good to leave on a high, which is what I did. And always good to be respected. I have great love, immense affection for Oracle, which put up with me for 20 years and didn't want to let me go in the end. I will always be grateful to them, but life goes on, and this is where I'm at. This is my home, and I'd like to do whatever I can to contribute.
That's great to know, Samina. It's wonderful that you're here in Pakistan and contributing to your home country. It's good to have you back, and keep shining and keep doing the wonderful work that you're doing at CFP. And I would definitely love to have a chat with Sheba and all the wonderful people that you mentioned, especially Jahara too, right? And
Yes.
have a talk with her on Startup Talks. And hopefully through this platform, maybe it reaches out to the right people and helps CFP raise the funding that it needs to scale, that is. It was wonderful to host you. Thank you very much for being here. I hope you enjoy the rest of your time in Pakistan, and all the best to Code for Pakistan.
Thank you, Temur. I will reach out to Shiba Najmi and Jahanara. Both are friends. Of course, I work very closely with Shiba, and Jahan and I have known each other from the time that there were only two women in IT in Pakistan. One was named Jahan and the other was named Samina, and a few others like Sabine, God rest her soul. She was one of the pioneers, Sabine Mahmood. I will reach out to them and introduce you. I'm sure they know about you anyway. They would be wonderful people to have on your talk show. They're full of information and guidance and knowledge. So thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, I've got a couple of common friends between me and Jahan. I don't know her directly, right? But common associates are there. And please do forward that video.
I will do that.
I would definitely love to incorporate that short video of the work that CFP is doing. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Temur. God bless you. Stay in touch. Thank you for this.
Thank you. Allah Hafiz.
Allah Hafiz.